Hello again, my slimy little sausages. It is almost time for the first pay-per-view of the year, UFC 311, coming up this Saturday, the 18th. There are not one, not three, but two title fights. That's right, two title fights and a phenomenal main card. My name is Miko, this is Backseat Fighters, and this is why you should care about UFC 311.
Kiss and someone to hold. There's a virus in the system. People talk but you don't.
So like I said, there are two title fights on this one. We're going to be establishing storylines for the next 12 months in MMA, and it's taking place on MLK Jr. weekend, which is why, in honor of that, we got a whole lot of white on white crime on this thing. You know, it's the time for brotherhood and solidarity. It's like a Caucasian caucus. That's just stupid. Like, all four guys in the two title fights are from like Dagestan, Armenia, Georgia. There's also some great prospects to watch out for on this card. RDR, Peyton Talbot. Talbot is 9-0 and he has either the best or the worst tattoo in MMA. I know Jordy loves bad MMA tattoos, so I'll let him flash a few up there for you. But you know the deal, we are here to give you the most information in the short space of time without being boring or a fucking dork about it. We'll talk about some of the notable names, the notable fights, and of course I will break down the nicknames and my infallible 50p bets. So strap in, sunshine, let's talk some punch sport. Dana, I will sell you the trademark for Punch Sport. I don't have the trademark for Punch Sport. He doesn't know that though, right? So let's start with what big names are on this card. Now for your level 1 casuals, Islam Makhachev is probably the only name they'll recognize, but they will also know the name Nurmagomedov. Now yes, that is technically cheating because it's not Khabib, it is his cousin Umar. But it's still Nurmagomedov. Level 2 fight fans will be smacking their lips because on the main card, not only have you got those two amazing title fights, but you've also got Jiří Procházka, Money Moicano, Kevin Holland, all fighting. I made that sound like they were like, it was like a Royal Rumble situation. They have their own individual fights. And there's former champ Jamal Hill, who I've hated since before it was cool, to be honest. I'm kind of a hipster hater on Jamal Hill. And look, if he gets knocked out, we all celebrate. And if he wins, he's going to be so cringe on the mic, guys. Like, even if he wins, it's going to fuel the MMA meme scene for months. So, you know, win-win.
I'm not talking about even just, I'm talking about striking.
Oh, you gonna knock him out?
Yeah, bro. I gotta shut him out.
Your level 3 hardcore fans will be excited to see those prospects back in the octagon that I mentioned earlier, and also quietly hyped for Almeida versus Spivak, because that heavyweight division desperately needs some new contenders. And as for those level 4 wanks who watch reruns of Contender Series and try to argue that Jens Pulver is a divisional GOAT, there are a lot of names on the early prelims that most people won't have heard of, so we turn to our chief in wankiness, Jordy, to throw up some names of fighters to look out for. So those are some of the big names. Let's do a quick preview of a few of the more notable fights. And we'll jump straight in with the aforementioned Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. As I said, the heavyweight division desperately needs new contenders, and these guys, they've only lost to the very, very best. So this could be huge for them. Almeida is a submission machine, the likes of which we rarely get to see at heavyweight, and he was on a tear. He's 21-3 until Curtis Blades knocked him out. Can we talk about Curtis Blades? Curtis Blades is so good, and he's never going to get the belt. And it's not fair. And it's not even fair to call him like a gatekeeper because he's better than, he's the gate. Anyway, Almeida's opponent, Sergey Spivak, is also on a roll. He's got submissions of his own as well as knockouts, including knocking out Greg Hardy. So Spivak's a made man in my eyes. Fuck Greg Hardy. I imagine Almeida's the favorite here, but I genuinely think Spivak's going to surprise some people. And his nickname's the Polar Bear. So, yeah, come on, 50p on Spivak by TKO. Next, headlining the prelims is Johnny Walker versus Bogdan Guskov. And light heavyweight is also desperate for some new contenders. Johnny Walker's on a 2-fight skid, but that man is so hard to predict. Like when he's on his game, he's elite. But that chinny chin chin sometimes leads to no winny win. That was stupid. Move on. Bogdan is just 2-0 in the UFC, but with legit knockout wins over Zach Pauga and Ryan Spann. And Johnny Walker gets hit a lot and goes timber with the best of them, so I'm going Guskov by KO. Never mind. News just in: Johnny Walker has had to pull out of the fight from injury. They're trying to find another opponent for Bogdan, and whoever they get, my prediction's the same: 50p on Gus by KO. Next up, fan favourite Kevin Holland is back doing what he loves to do most, which is accepting lots of money to fight fights that he likely will not win. His opponent, RDR, or Renier de Ridier, which I say it like that, so I'm gonna call him RDR. RDR came in highly touted, but his debut against Gerald Mearshart, it wasn't inspiring. He did get the win by submission in the third round, but Kevin Holland, no disrespect to GM3, I think Holland's a big step up, so we're really going to see what this guy's made of. RDR is the safe bet, but I imagine he's a massive favourite, so I'm going to put 50p on the guy that has just as many surprising victories as he has had inevitable defeats. 50p on Holland. We also have Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, and this is it. This is the fight for Money Moicano. This is where we find out if he is truly title level or if he's just really likeable and been on a hell of a run. Because let's be real, Benny D is no joke. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and honestly, I think he's just better. But he's been knocked out twice in a row now, and Moicano is going to come wild with it. It's sad to say, but I think we might be seeing the end of Dariush's career, and he will go down as another one of those fighters who is the very best to never get a title shot. 50p on Money Moicano, but respect to Dariush. Then we've got Yuri Prohaska versus Jamal Hill. We don't need to discuss this one because Yuri's a samurai and Hill is a delusional pot-bellied misogynist. 50p on Yuri. Next, the co-main event of the evening is Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov for the bantamweight title. This is fascinating because Merab has looked unstoppable. On his way to the title, he took out 4 former champions, which is insane, including carrying Henry Cejudo, Triple C, gold medal wrestler. He carried him around like a sack of potatoes. It was crazy. So at Backseat Fighters, we recently made a predictions internally, a bet on who would be champs by the end of the year. Maybe we'll share that with you at some point. We did the same last year and I won. I know Jordy wants to put something insulting in the edit right now, but he can't because who were some of your picks, Jordy? They were a bit wild, weren't they? Anyway, the point is I predicted Merab would still be champ by the end of the year because I just don't see anyone beating him, but people are really high on Umar. He's undefeated, he's coached by his cousin Khabib, and yeah, everyone that's trained with him, you know, fighters, commentators, people seem really convinced that this is the next guy. But personally, I just haven't seen enough from Umar. He had a great win against Sandhagen, but that's his only ranked opponent, and he usually wins by decision, and I just don't see that happening against a wrestler like Merab with that high output and that like Holloway gas tank of his. So I got 50p on that Georgian nutter by decision. The final fight of the night is Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan, and I'm honestly so excited. Arman's first fight in the UFC was against Islam, and although Islam won, Arman took it on short notice and he really pushed him. It was one of Islam's toughest fights to date. This is going to be fun. Just like Merab, I do struggle to see who's going to beat Islam at lightweight, but I've said for a couple of years now that the killers coming up, Tsarukyan, Gamrot, Rafael Fiziev, I thought they had the best chance. Gamrot and Tsarukyan are both really strong grapplers who can fucking crack. And speaking of crack, and Rafael Fiziev, man, I've never heard a man kick another man so hard. I think he could be a lumberjack without a chainsaw. He's terrifying.
Right thing. Oh my!
But Tsarukyan was the first guy to rise to the title shot, and I think it's going to be a tough matchup for the champ. But you know what, guys? Islam's grown on me. He has. I think he's genuinely funny, and he's really smart in fight. I love when a fighter can like make adjustments and adapt, and he's good, man. If he wins, he will break the record for the most title defenses at lightweight with 4. Does that make him the divisional GOAT? It's hard as older fans, we tend to be skeptical of seemingly great fighters because when you watched peak Anderson Silva, it's hard to look at guys like Islam or Adesanya and think that they're on that level. True dominance is very rare in this sport, and Islam has a chance to not only be a good champion, but cement himself as an all-time great. Whoever wins is going to be amazing for the division. I'm rooting for Arman, but it's time. I love watching greatness, guys. I just do. There's something special about it, and I think Islam's that. Very similar to how I felt about Topuria just before he won the title. I just feel like we're on the brink of seeing something special. So with that said, I've got 50p on Islam to retain his belt by submission, probably in the later rounds. I think it will be a close fight. Arman might even win the first couple of rounds, but I trust Islam to stay composed and pull it out in the championship rounds. Alright, before we go, we've got to look at some of the nicknames. Now, I have never had to do so much research for this goddamn section before. So we're going to do more categories than just best and worst, because there's some there's some really weird nicknames on this card. There's also acronyms. There's quite a few acronym nicknames, and like, I don't care enough about Grant Dawson to find out why he's called KGD. I did try and deep dive, but clearly the rest of the internet doesn't care enough either, so I'm gonna assume it stands for Killer Grant Dawson, and we move on. As always, there's a lot of competition for the best basic bitch nickname. We've got a hybrid, a savage, and a reaper all on this card. For the worst nickname, I've sadly got to give it to Arman Sarukian, because he recently changed it. So it used to be an Halkakets. And Halkakets, which again, no one seems to know exactly what that means. It looks like it's a reference to where he was born in Georgia before going to Armenia. No one knows, but the point is he changed it. And Halkakets, even though I don't know what it means, it's rad as fuck, and he changed it to Tough Guy. What are you doing, brother? What are you doing? Best nicknames, I like Polar Bear, obviously. We have someone called the Lion King. But RDR's nickname is the Dutch Knight, and that kind of goes fucking hard. Now for a new category, the scariest nickname is going to go to Yiri, because I didn't know this, but he also has an acronym nickname, BJP. Kind of cool. It stands for Bombay Jack Pa. Also sounds pretty cool. In Czech, that translates to bomb the shit out of him. Yiri, I love that man. But he's terrifying. And finally, most confusing nickname. Now this was tough. Honorable mention to Aylin Perez. That's Aylin Perez, whose nickname is Fiona. What the fuck are we doing here? But in the end, the most confusing nickname easily goes to Jailton Almeida, whose nickname is Malhadinho. Now, you're like, what does that mean if you don't speak Portuguese? It means little Malhado. Yeah, what does Malhado mean? I'll tell you. It means piebald. Oh, you don't know what piebald means? It's an adjective usually referring to horses, meaning that they have black and white patches. How did that come about? Anyway, please leave a comment with what your nickname would be were you to be a fighter. Send this video to a friend, send it to a stranger, and maybe they will become a friend. Press all the YouTube buttons, please. Have a lovely time. We'll see you for the next one. I've been Miko, you've been Yuko. Ta-da, you lovely little biscuits.